What's up, everybody? It's George Gabriel, and these are 5 reasons you are not making it in the music business. So it's fair to put out there that it's hard to make it in the music business. It takes constant effort, constant work, really years of work to get you where you want to go. The overnight sensation is really not a thing. Yeah, but that happens. It happens, but it's so rare. It's like winning the lottery. Even if you had everything seemingly lined up, nothing guarantees your success. But when you're trying to make it in the music business, you're putting yourself out there into people who are making the decisions whether they want to hire you or not. And that decision process can be very, very short. So you have to take yourself seriously. If you don't take yourself seriously, neither will the people hiring you. And that is the biggest thing you have to overcome. So these 5 things are commonplace of things that lacks professionalism, and therefore I feel like they're not taking themselves seriously, so why should I take them seriously? But it's not just me, it's a lot of people in the business. So the first reason why you're not making it in the music business is that you're using a generic email. So when I get an email from someone that says like, hey, my nephew is really talented. He just spends every day in the studio and he writes all this music and he's done all this stuff. Will you talk to him? I'm like, sure, I'll talk to anybody. I always want to help people follow their dreams and be successful in the music business. But then when I get those emails, the first thing I look at is what is the email address. If it's a Gmail or if it's a Yahoo or something like that, I'm like, it's just a generic email. They're not taking themselves very seriously in this. And you may be like, what do you mean? I do a lot of music and I have a Gmail. Yes, I have a Gmail too, but I kind of use it for junk. I don't use it for my business because I'm not putting my brand out when I send an email. My job is to make my brand known. So I'm always going to use a Gabriel Music or georgegabriel.com email to get people to take me seriously. So when I see that, that's my first warning sign. Hey, this person doesn't really take them seriously. It's like fredrocks420@gmail.com. I'm like, oh, great. So it's a fairly easy thing to overcome, but you really do need to take your brand seriously if you want to make it in the music business, because people are paying attention to those little details. Which brings me to number 2. When you do put your music out there, you are showcasing on huge platforms. In other words, it's not branded. It's like, hey, check out my Spotify, or hey, check out my SoundCloud, or whatever. Generally, I have a rule: if your music only exists on SoundCloud, then you're really not taking yourself seriously. And on top of that, the thing with SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever it is, you're leaving it up to the person that's listening to the music to just randomly pick whatever thing that you want them to hear. And if it's the one thing out of 100 things that they may not like, or if it's the first thing in a playlist that they don't like, their chances are exponentially going down on how many more things they're going to listen to before they write you off. And while you can do some branding in those platforms, it's not really curating the music for the purpose that you're trying to get the gig with. You want to make sure that whatever they're listening to is going to be exactly what they want to hear, and not leave it up to chance that they're going to stumble on something that they don't like. Which brings me to number 3, which is your brand doesn't exist. You don't have a website. Now, we're knee deep in the 21st century, and if you don't have a website by now, that is a problem. The barrier of entry of getting a website is so nominal. It's like $100 a year for you to have your own website, which solves the email problem and it solves the music problem. If you're going to take yourself seriously, get a website that is your brand, that you can put exactly what you want, that's your image out there. You can put your photos out there. You can put your news items out there. You can put your music exactly the way that you see fit out there. You can put your credits out there. And so people really have a sense of getting to know who you are, your bio and all that. It's like, oh, I really get to know this person. Now you can say, well, I got a social media, I got an Instagram, and I got a whatever. That's fine. But people know nowadays that the Instagram is like, hey, I'm putting my best foot forward, and this might not really be who I am. If I'm really taking myself seriously, I'll have the Instagram, but I'll also have my website saying like, hey, this is my lair. This is my presentation of me. And then people can get to know you under the banner of what you want to represent about yourself, not a social media platform. Which brings me to number 4. What you're showcasing on your website should be a really strong reel. And if you don't have a reel, that is a problem. What is a reel, or a composite as I call it? It's the best moments of your pieces of music all weaved together in a 2-minute presentation that showcases the entirety of who you are as a writer, composer, songwriter. Don't expect them to listen to full songs. Don't expect them to listen to full pieces of music. What you want to do is lay the best parts about you out there in a digestible small package. And that's a composite. Now, if you have a ton of music, it's like, well, I got hundreds of pieces of music. How am I going to pick my top 20 or my top 10? You can make multiple composites. In fact, I have a whole video on that. Check out how to make a demo reel that gets the gig. And it shows you how to make this reel. But the bottom line is you really want to put yourself out there in the best form of you. And you can leave the full songs for people to listen to if they become interested. But people's attention span are short. You're going to get 3 to maybe 10 seconds, if you're lucky, of people listening to your music before they move on. And if you don't knock their socks off in the first 10 seconds of what you're presenting, the chances of them hanging around to listen to a lot more are slimmer and slimmer as the minutes go by. So if you solve the branding issue by getting a website which solves the email, which solves how you present your music, and then you do a really good demo reel, you're already in really good shape. But there is one more thing, which is number 5. You're not making it in the music business because you don't seem like you're happening. The old adage, you're only as good as your last gig, is kind of true. Being a composer, sometimes I'm in between gigs and I've got maybe a couple months where I'm not doing anything. And that makes it look like, hey, what's he doing? Well, what was his last gig? Well, it was a Disney thing. Okay, but what's he doing now? Well, I don't know. People want to know that you're happening. People want to know that you're doing something, that you're constantly busy. And even if you are faking it till you make it, you can make your own news items. So it's essential to have a news section on your website that shows what you're doing now. At least once a month, you want to put something like, hey, check out what I'm working on. And it could be a work in progress. It could be your own project. Hey, I'm creating this like sound design thing that's going to be really cool for sound design. And let me show you some videos on it. It doesn't really matter what it is, but anything can be a news item. Maybe you're playing a gig. Maybe you got hired to do a student score or something like that. It doesn't really matter. But what you want to do is show people you're up to date and you're constantly working on your craft and you're constantly trying to get out there. That shows work ethic. And that's what people want. They want people who are constantly working. If you're approaching trying to get in the music business as a bedroom composer, just throwing a couple things out there and hoping that it hits, the chances of that happening are slim. But if you fully dive in and live, eat, sleep, and breathe your music career and present yourself with a brand that you deserve, your chances exponentially go higher. Remember, your competition is other people who are the bedroom composers, who are using the Gmails, who are using SoundCloud, who don't have a website. So it puts you above everybody else. And it doesn't matter how successful you are. This is something that happens all the time. Actors, musicians, people go in between gigs and they're kind of not working, but they're constantly doing something to present themselves like they're happening still. Funny story, I was at an event of a famous drummer and there was a lot of other famous drummers that you would know. And what was fascinating was all the side conversations of drummers, albeit they're drummers. Okay, I guess I'm a drummer too, so... But all of them were positioning like, yeah, well, I didn't have that gig anymore. And now I'm like looking, I'm waiting for another gig and I'm maybe going to play with this person or that person. It was really a window into the professional world on how everyone is still facing the same thing. We're all in between gigs and we're trying to get the next gig. So don't think that it's just you trying to get the gig. It happens to everybody. Overall, you really just want to be confident. You want to present yourself as you deserve to be presented. Be proud of who you are as a musician, a composer, songwriter, whatever it is that you do. And in that pride, showcase yourself the way that you want the world to see you with the information you want them to hear and doing it in a continual basis so people know that you're taking yourself seriously. It's really just a work ethic and an attitude adjustment. The thought that you're going to somehow make it big on Instagram or something like that is not going to happen. What do you mean? People do that all the time. Yeah. Again, it's like winning the lottery. So don't bank on that. Bank on investing in yourself, investing in your image, investing in your brand, putting yourself out there the way that you should be put out there. And you'll have much more likelihood that you're going to be successful. Also be aware that it takes probably 3 to 5 years to be successful. So you got to be in it that entire time. And there'll be moments of frustration, but forge forward and do it. I've got confidence in you. And if I can do it, you certainly can do it. So what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment of why you're not making it in the music business? Drop me a comment and let me know. I'd love to have a dialogue with you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Click the bell icon to be notified of future videos and subscribe to my Instagram @GGabrielMusic. And I'll see you next time on George Gabriel Music.